So today I want to talk about Bitcoin going up to $12 million each. CME Group expanding Bitcoin and Ether options expiration after record daily volume. There are a lot of institutions that are also getting involved. That's the only reason why CME would want to increase their options, because there's just so much interest right now. I just got done saying, the Fed, the banks, should we trust them? Well, according to Robert Kiyosaki, the answer is no. Bitcoin is up 100% in a year, okay? And there's reason for it. Will Bitcoin keep going up? I'm betting on it. I'm buying more gold and silver. Why buy more gold, silver, and Bitcoin? If you don't trust our president, or you don't trust our Federal Reserve Fed Chair Powell, and you don't trust our U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, well, then you should be buying Bitcoin. And that may be the reason why Bitcoin is up over 100% for this year, while everything else is nowhere close. Not NASDAQ, not the banks, not technology, not gold, not silver. None of these are anywhere close to Bitcoin's recovery right now. This is what I came across, okay? You guys, I know you guys don't want to hear about Bitcoin at 12,000, but I do, because you know what? It actually makes sense if you break it down, right? We just got done talking about gold. And then you have other store values like cars and collectible, art, real estate, stocks, obviously. And then you have a couple of different type of bonds. And you guys, I don't think you guys know how big each one of these markets are, including real estate, 228 trillion, bonds, 234 trillion, low yielding, and then you got stock market, you got all these others that are in the trillions of market cap. Bitcoin is still like half a trillion, okay, barely above half a trillion, right? And as Bitcoin gets higher, and as there's more distrust in the governments and our banks, and because Bitcoin keeps on appreciating and is the only non-sovereign currency out there, people will turn to Bitcoin. Right? And if Bitcoin just captures just a small portion of all these markets, which I truly believe can happen in the future, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but over the course of the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, Bitcoin will take a huge market share from these other stores of value. Can it capture 40% of gold's value? I certainly think so. Because Bitcoin was created to replace gold, it could probably capture a larger portion of that. But, you know, you look at other cars and collectibles, 10%, fine art, 20%, real estate, 20%, stock market, 20%, and then capturing a lot of these bonds that yield nothing, either a negative rate or a very low rate. Why would anyone buy bonds when Bitcoin is better store of value, right? So taking away those, then you have this number of 207 trillion market cap. That's roughly 400 times where Bitcoin is right now. That's where I came up with the 12 million. 400 times higher than right now. Okay? Again, if you break it down like this and you think about it logically, it makes sense. To capture just a small sliver of these huge categories, it can happen. Especially when you consider this. I mean, this is very telling. Okay, why does the price of something go up? Because supply can't keep up with demand. And this shows you exactly what's been happening. And there's a cross. Actually, that cross was in 2018 and never stopped. Basically, the purple line is demand. The green line is supply. And the green line will continue to go down. And the the demand will continue to go up. It's just that simple. Okay, supply and demand. And we're still so early in the game. We don't have 8 billion people talking about Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin and storing Bitcoin and using Bitcoin. But when that happens one day and each Bitcoin is above 1 million and we're at 10 million or 12 million, people will be buying sats. They'll be paying thousands to buy sats, not hold Bitcoins anymore. The number of people holding one Bitcoin, at least just addresses, is less than 1 million, okay? And we know that it's not 1 million people holding Bitcoins, at least one Bitcoin, right? It's probably a tenth of this. But even if it is at 1 million, right? 1 million out of 8 billion, what's the percentage of that? Barely nothing. Barely scratching the surface, right? So we are still so early. Bitcoin is being adopted basically worldwide, especially developing countries. We tend to think that Bitcoin is just a thing for us in the US or Europe or Australia, right? No. You have a lot of developing countries in Africa, in Asia, Middle East. I mean, there's a lot of places that Bitcoin is extremely popular because it makes everyone their own bank. There's more people with mobile phones in these areas than people that have bank accounts, right? And remittance services, they're very costly. I mean, there's so much use for Bitcoin that we tend not to think about. But Bitcoin is the securest network on the planet, the most decentralized network on the planet, and the only non-sovereign digital currency that we have on the planet. And that is why everyone is flocking to embrace Bitcoin. Again, going back to supply and demand. Demand is skyrocketing and supply is decreasing and will never stop. It will continue this trend basically forever until one day Bitcoin topping out maybe at $12 million each. I don't even know about topping out. I don't know where the upper limit is of Bitcoin. It could be way higher than that. You guys know, short term, there's so many of these kind of charts that show Bitcoin is on its way upwards. Upwards and upwards. We are starting the new cycle. We are starting the next bull cycle. We are past crypto winter. And yes, even though we're not back to 69,000, we have started the next bull cycle. Okay? We have started. We're not at the tail end yet. We have just begun. And look at what has happened before, right? In hindsight, how many of you guys would have loaded up basically everything at those circle points behind? But living in those moments, no one knows. And no one goes all in because it's, first of all, that's not safe. But second of all, people are still doubting whether or not it's true, whether or not we are in a bull cycle or we're going to fall further, right? But in hindsight, those two times are prime opportunities to make generational wealth or life-changing wealth or wife-changing wealth, however you want to call it. Those would have been the times to be buying in, right? Just like right now. After we top out in 2025, you will look back and say, why didn't I listen to George?